How you doing today? I'm going to talk about the matriarchy and the patriarchy. We'll start off with the matriarchy because it was first. That is society that is more or less controlled by women. Based on the way women thought, the way they saw the world, based on their sociology, and based on their culture. It was female. They taught men everything they knew. Men learned from the women. And they had many things that the female had invented, the inventions. She was the first to use the sciences, the arts and sciences, including astronomy. Many of the constellations, especially the southern constellations, were described in the sky by these women. And they had established wonderful civilizations over time in more than one place. But having taught men what they knew, what the men knew, they gave men, let's say, a great deal of power through education and knowledge. And what happened was that the men decided that they wanted to take over and establish the patriarchy. After many battles and negotiations, eventually the men won out. And the patriarchy became supreme. Now, the mythologies of the world tell us this very thing in various ways. They tell us of this change that took place. And we can see that these changes are reflected in the Holy Bible, the Christian Bible, and others. For example, when Abraham, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, was told by God the Father that he was changing his name to Abraham. This reflects a change. This reflects the change from the matriarchy into the patriarchy. You see. Another example that reflects the change is that when Moses went to the edge of the promised land, he never crossed over. Joshua did. Moses was a child of the mother. Therefore, he couldn't cross over. He couldn't go to heaven. Well, Joshua did, but when he went over there, he said he killed everybody. Now, this is mythology, but it is a reflection of what happened to the matriarchy in the beginning, you see. Moses didn't cross over because crossing over to the other side, this promised land, was at first the land of the matriarchy, the folks who had did so wonderful in the world, crops this high and so forth and so on. That's what the females did in the matriarchy in the beginning. So Joshua crossing over took over everything, killed everybody. He took over everything. That's a pattern, you see. Because when God the Father told Abraham that he was going to call him Abraham, but from then on, he was telling him this very thing: you take over. It was harsh because the women who was going to be treated so terribly were relegated to nothing. Okay, and this didn't happen only here with the this Abraham doctrine. It was happening in different places in the world. So Moses didn't cross over because he was a child of the mother. The mother was rejected. She was looked upon as evil, the devil. She is looked upon as sin. This is one of the reasons why, and maybe the only reason why, it is said that people are born in sin, because the mother is evil. This is what happened to her. And she is looked upon as evil even today. You see. And relegated to today, she's relegated to the status, at least in the hearts of men and minds of men, she's relegated to the kitchen and the bedroom and the nursery. This is the way it was. You see. Society, American society has changed, and so women are getting out some, they're doing more. Not because the doctrine of, let's say, Abraham has changed, because society has changed relative to its economics. That's why that is. You see. But that may be an opportunity for her to rise, as she says she wants to do, break the glass ceiling. But anyway, getting back to the patriarchy, we see that in the Christian tradition with the Christ and so forth, John the Baptist didn't cross over either. John the Baptist was a child of the mother. A child of the mother, you don't go to heaven. The Spirit of God would have to descend upon you in some way and change you over so that you'll be the Son of God the Father or the Son of Man, not woman. So Jesus, well, he didn't exactly cross over either. But Jesus was a child of the mother, Mary. you see. But the child of the Father, who was the Christ, well, of course, he crossed over. The Christ was the child of the Father, not the mother, you see. But we have a good example of the how women were relegated to secondary status or less than that. In some places, she treated so terribly. I mean, it's just awful. In the world today, I'm not talking about it thousands of years ago, but it's under the patriarchy, you see. But now we have a situation that may sort of clear things up a little more for us when we get into, as we enter this matriarchy, patriarchy situation. We'll go to, let's say, Africa, Australia, India. They all practice this so-called circumcision. Well, not everybody in those countries, but it still goes on in the countries that I just mentioned, or the Sudan, Ethiopia, the Congo, Tanzania, South Sudan. These are, and probably in Egypt, these people still practice this old system. It's actually the system, okay, that symbolically puts man as in the position of the double parent, like the mother and father. So we go to Australia. Australia give us a time gauge of, give us an idea of how long this has been going on in the world. So we say, well, the Australians, according to anthropologists, etc., has the folks there, the indigenous people in Australia, have been there about 65,000 years. Okay? They still practice the circumcision and so forth and circumcision. They brought it with them from Africa. Well, if they landed in Australia, for example, 65,000 years ago, then the practice was done in Africa 65,000 years ago, and these Africans brought it to Australia with them and still practice it today. So now, when a young man, this is called young man making, or when a young boy reaches puberty, okay, he is subjected to this operation. Well, it's done in other parts of the world too, especially in Africa today. And he is circumcised, and he also has a split cut deep into his penis. That split symbolizes or represents the vagina. So the boy becomes the dual parent. He's both mother and father symbolically. So the split in the penis symbolizes the vagina that makes him the mother. And the father, he's already the father. So he's mother and father. What about the biological mother? She doesn't mean anything. This is the patriarchy. Remember? She's been relegated to the lowest status possible. You see? This goes on today. The patriarchy is still with us. Very much so. Okay, we get back.